Welcome to this very special mini edition, of the Real Deal Podcast, the mini pod, episode 989, week 19 of the NFL season. Of course, it's divisional weekend, where you're going to see the contenders, the number one seeds, jump into the mix here, and this is really the last weekend of football. In reality, to be perfectly honest with you, the last complete weekend of football, Saturday, Sunday action. Of course, you'll have Monday night action with the national championship with Notre Dame taking on Ohio State. Um, Beginning with the Kansas City game. As always, you can subscribe. You can like, subscribe, or share the Real Deal Podcast. Of course, all your support is definitely greatly appreciated. Hope everybody out there has had a great week. We begin with the Kansas City Houston game, the first game of the weekend. Um, I don't think this game will be relative. I don't think this game is going to be relatively close. Here's what you have to understand. I heard people trying to just pick against Kansas City just to be contrarian. You can't believe in your heart of hearts that Houston is going to go to Kansas City and beat Kansas City. So Kansas City has three of probably the best playoff players in the last this decade on offense and defense. When you talk Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and Chris Jones, and I know all you Kansas City fans still haven't forgotten Chris Jones being offsides in that 2018 AFC Championship that would have that would have put them in another Super Bowl. That would have that would have had them in Super Bowl that year over New England. The game was over, but he was offsides, and New England ended up winning in overtime. But Chris Jones has been a dominant defensive player throughout this run since 2018, uh, and it's not even the numbers that tell the story. But when you talk about Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs in this divisional round, 6-0 lifetime, 16 touchdowns, no interceptions. Overall, he's 41 touchdowns, 8 interceptions with a 15 record, postseason record. Again, simply one of the greatest postseason players of all time. If not, outside of Tom Brady, I feel like the greatest postseason player of all time, to be honest with you. And I think having that time off, Kansas City had to rest, has had a couple weeks to rest, really 3 weeks to rest. They didn't play their players in week 17, and they earned that. I heard a lot of people complaining about that, saying that they kind of stuck at the Kansas City. Stuck at the Cincinnati. They first of all, number one, they don't owe Cincinnati shit. Like Cincinnati lost some ugly games in September, got off to that normal bad start. If you're Cincinnati, win a game in September. Take the like don't start out, don't lose games that you have no business losing the week one to New England. So I have no sympathy whatsoever for the Cincinnati Bengals. They did not deserve to be in the playoffs, and Kansas City owes them nothing, to say the least. But Kansas City will be well rested, and when you are a team that is chasing a three-peat, something that has never been done before, not by New England, not by San Francisco, not by any of the great teams of all time in terms of three straight Super Bowls. There's no shortage of the amount of rest that you can have in terms of prep time, in terms of getting guys that are nicked up. Uh, Patrick Mahomes had a rough year physically, but not any major injuries, but he got knocked around with some of the offensive line struggles that they had over the course of the season. So I would take rest. I would take rest over rust any day of the week. They're going to be fresh. They're going to be running around, They're going to be running around all over the place, flying around all over the place. And I really see them playing a big time game and winning this game, going away something like 31-17, 31-20, 34-20, something to that nature. I don't think Houston really has a chance in this game, to be honest with you. And I'm a CJ Stroud fan. D'Amico Ryans is excellent, is a one of the better young coaches in the league, a tremendous coach. But Houston did their job last week with handling the Chargers. I think Kansas City runs away with this game. As far as the night game, with in regards to Detroit and Washington, this will be a fun game to watch. Detroit absolutely should be favored. Detroit, it's going in as a favorite to win the Super Bowl, definitely to win, let alone win the NFC and win the Super Bowl as well. Listen, I'm a fan of the Commanders. I'll be the first to say it, but I know that this is a winnable game for the Commanders. I don't walk into this game thinking that the Commanders cannot win this game. When you have the best player on the field in terms of the quarterback at the quarterback position, you have a chance. And all due respect to Jared Goff, Jaden Daniels will be the best quarterback on this field. Detroit has a shaky defense. The Commanders can score, and the Commanders in that game will need to put up minimum 35 points, and that might not be enough. Like Detroit could put 50 on you without blinking an eye. Detroit was not by far, but the highest scoring team in football this year, averaged around close to 33 points a game, over 500 points this season, outscored their opponents by 222 points, which is absolutely a big time number. There were a lot of games where they frankly destroyed people. I think Washington will be in this game. If I'm Washington and I win the opening toss, I'm taking the ball. Like it is very important that Washington get a play with a lead in this game, not let it turn into an avalanche game where next thing you know, where you blink and you're down 21-7, because that's how fast Detroit can score. Uh, the one game, the one game where Detroit faced a dominant throwing, rushing quarterback was against Buffalo with Josh Allen, and Josh Allen absolutely obliterated Detroit. Detroit in that game, destroyed them. So outside of that game, this will be by far the most dangerous dual threat quarterback that they faced all year long. I think Washington is going to have some opportunities in this game. Um, they're going to have to score. They're going to put points on the board. They're going to put a lot of points on the board. The offense is going to have one. The offense, obviously, they're going to have one of maybe their best offensive game of the season. But I believe that they can hang in the game. But I pick them to outright win it. No, if I'm being objective. But do I believe they can win? Absolutely, 1,000%. And keep this in mind about Detroit. Detroit. We're not talking about a team, a franchise that has championship pedigree. That they're not what New England once was. They're not what Kansas City is right now. Um, they're still trying to climb to the mountaintop. They're still trying to get there. So again, that should be a fun game to watch. I think that's a game that will be dictated by the offenses. Both offenses will put up points on the board. It's just a matter of can Washington keep up. Sunday, you have Philadelphia with the early game. You have Philadelphia and the Rams. Earlier this season, this was a rematch from earlier this season where the Rams absolutely, manhandled the Rams. Where Philadelphia absolutely manhandled the Rams, and especially in the second half, they ran all over the place. Saquon Barkley, I believe, had well over 200 yards rushing. I think he had like 230 yards rushing, something like that. He had over 200, and they just pushed around the Rams in the second half after a decent first half by the Rams in that particular game in LA. This is not the same Ram team. Their defense is playing the best football of the season by far. They have a guy, Matthew Stafford, who's kind of had a underrated postseason career. 5-4 in the postseason, really hasn't had a stinker. And even when he was losing games with Detroit, that was more about Detroit not having the personnel, especially on the defensive end to compete with those teams in his early years during his time there. Of course, he had that tremendous run with the Rams when they went 4-0 to win the Super Bowl in 2021, 21 season. So Stafford, even last year in defeat against Detroit, he was the best player on the field. He was off the charts in that game. And to me, again, right now, which quarterback do I trust? Philly has the better team. The Rams have the better quarterback. Right now, I trust Stafford more than I trust Jalen Hurts, considering Jalen Hurts is coming off the concussion and he was not impressive whatsoever against Green Bay. He's going to have to play. Hurts is going to have to play a much better game against Green Bay. He's going to have to play a B plus A minus game for the Philadelphia to win. I expect Philadelphia to win though. I don't think the Rams have enough. They're still a draft away. They're still a couple pieces away. They have a talented young defense, and of course we know what they have in Puka Nuka. I'm just butchering this wide receiver's name. Nuka in the receiver. Um, he's one of the best young receivers in football, but they're still like a year away to me. But again, similar to Detroit, like this is a winnable game for Detroit, though. Excuse me, for the Rams. I don't think they will win, but certainly, would I be shocked if they won? No, no, I wouldn't be shocked if they won. And McVay is a big time coach, but I fully expect Philadelphia to be playing next week in the conference championship. And of course, to wrap up the weekend, you have the game of the week, maybe the game of the year, maybe even a game that could be that's good enough to be a Super Bowl. To be honest with you, and that's Buffalo hosting the Baltimore Ravens, in what I can't say this is the biggest game of Lamar Jackson's career or Josh Allen's career because they both played in conference championships, both of course losing to Kansas City, but it is the without question probably the most hyped game in terms of them facing each other. A couple of years ago, of course, Buffalo took out Baltimore 17-3 in the playoffs. Of course, this is a totally different situation. Both these two teams are totally different. Both these quarterbacks are playing the best football of their lives. Baltimore, last time I checked, was a 1 point favorite, which shows you how much respect they're getting being a road favorite in Buffalo, which is one of the toughest places to win, especially in the postseason. Um, I know they've lost to Cincinnati and Kansas City, but it's Cincinnati and Kansas City. You're talking about talking about Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow. But that's a tough place. That is a tough place to win. It has always been historically in the playoffs a tough place to win. Going back to the Jim Kelly, Thurman Thomas, Bruce Smith days. I've really had a hard time getting a feel of this game as the week has gone along. Baltimore should win this game. They are clearly the better team. Clearly, like they have more talent than Buffalo. Buffalo to me has overachieved. That's why I think Josh Allen is the MVP. Now I've said that on this podcast a few times. No, again, we'll have no problem if Lamar Jackson does win it because he's worthy as well. But Buffalo should win this game. I mean, excuse me, Baltimore should win this game. I think this game is going to be right. Again, you can toss out the regular season that they played with Baltimore and handled them 35-10. That was a week 4 game. That was a game. Remember, you're talking about Baltimore was looking at 0-3. Okay, they were staring 0-3 in the face. That was a desperation game. They had to have that game to somewhat even salvage their season. And Buffalo came in, I believe Buffalo came in at 3-0 in that game. So I tossed that game out. The two teams are both these teams are playing much better football than what they were, especially Buffalo. So that in that game, I believe, was the last week in September. You know my theory on September games. They count, but they don't count. It's still like extended preseason. I would lean towards I have a feeling Buffalo's going to win this game. Even though I think Baltimore is the better team, I have a feeling Buffalo is going to win a very close game. Again, Josh Allen has very little room for error in this game. I think that if you look at Baltimore, Baltimore's gotten itself in trouble when they've gone away from the run. That first game they played, it was a Derrick Henry show. Derrick Henry had 24 carries for 199 yards. If Buffalo can hold him to say 20 carries to for like 120, 125, 30 yards, they'll be in great shape. They just can't let him go berserk in this game. So to me, the key that will be the key. The time possession will be big in this game. Keeping Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson off the field to me, and Buffalo is great at moving the chains, especially with Josh Allen in terms of what he can do with his legs. So that will be a key to me. Also, Buffalo is a team that can turn you over. They're one of the best in the league at turning people over. Baltimore has got to protect the football. You cannot give Buffalo any turnover, especially in that building. Josh Allen will destroy you with that, and vice versa. Like Buffalo can't give them extra possessions as well as that. The offense. I haven't outside of the Philadelphia Eagles. No one stopped Baltimore's offense, even when they lost. When they lost games that they had no business losing, they stopped themselves by not committing fully to the run. The last 5 games of the season, last 5 or 6 games of the season, when they went on that win streak, 2 things happened. The defense went to another level and became a legit top 5 defense in the league, and they fully engaged and committed to running the football. They're like, we're going to run it down your throat, even if we have series where we don't throw the ball at all. We're going to run it down your throat. The number to me to watch out for in terms of to watch out for a stat to watch out for is Lamar Jackson pass attempts. If Lamar Jackson is over 30, if he's like in that 30 to 35 range, without turnovers, I don't think they can win that game. I don't think they will win that game. If Lamar Jackson is in that 18 to 25 range, then they will have a great chance to win that game. They get themselves in trouble when his pass attempts are up and the rushes are down. And again, if you're Buffalo, you want to keep those rushes under 30. You can live with 20 to 25 rushes total between those two. See, the Baltimore wants 40. Baltimore wants 40 to 45 rushes, 35 to 45 to 40 rushes. Because they physically lay on you, they physically wear you down over the course of 60 minutes. Again, I think this is going to be a classic game. I would give ball. Again, I think Baltimore should win the game, but I would lean slightly. I mean, slightly a field goal overtime type game for the Buffalo Bills. That's going to wrap it up for this mini pod edition of the Ril Dil Podcast. I will see you next week. Have a great weekend.